Hello, everybody, and welcome to the mid-season break. Tonight, we are having a one-night-only chronicle, Slough night, a vampire chronicle based in the concrete jungle of Slough. And tonight, joining me for this delightful adventure, we have...
Hi, I'm Kirsty, and I'll be playing Sandy tonight.
I'm Sam, and I'll be playing Captain Walter Kingsley.
Hi, I'm Nat, and I'll be playing Laura.
Wonderful. And I am Rob, for those of you who don't know me. I am obviously part of the regular Blood on the Seven stream. But tonight, for one night only, your storyteller. So, tonight's story will take us to the domain of Windsor and Maidenhead. This is an old and traditional court, originally founded on the Roman settlement of Alaunadunum, which is now Maidenhead. It has grown to encompass the larger area with the building of the Windsor Castle. Power shifted over towards Windsor in the 11th century, and through conquest in later centuries, it took High Wycombe and brought that into the fold. And it hasn't grown or changed much until more recent nights, with the growth of the population in the country has been quite a lot, and new business, new opportunities, modern takes on the world have created the wonderful concrete land of Slough, which now itself is greater in population than any of the other three major cities within the domain. But is it a domain that expands beyond that, encompassing parks to the south and the green areas between? So we find ourselves here in a place which is struggling between the traditionalists who fit that more royal court and those of the modern persuasion, those new businessmen, people who are new out of London, finding their way in the world and wanting to make their mark in the world. And they are predominantly focused in the region of Slough and aroundabouts. And so there is something of a tension in this domain as we find ourselves here between these different factions, power threatening yet again to shift slightly more north, away from Windsor and towards Slough perhaps. It is in these recent nights that there is also some other conflict. Conflict with the Anarchs has been growing increasingly on the northwest boundary towards Reading as they claim new territories. And additionally, about 10 years ago, there was a serious change in leadership, shifting from an old leadership, a prince of the Malkavian clan, to a leadership by a younger ancilla, Prince Emeritus Shah of the Tremere. Now, we find ourselves in a night in 2007. It is a number of years since the Week of Nightmares that's passed, but London has not yet fallen, and the Conclave of Prague has not happened, and so we find ourselves very much in a Camarilla city with a solid 7 clans, and freedom to act with no fear of a second inquisition on a vampire's back. But not as all quiet, and it is in this evening that our 3 kindred have been called by the prince and set a task, promising them all a boon should they manage to see this particular task to its completion quickly, as matters are, of course, busy within the domain. She has brought to their attention that there is a circus. A circus is not normally a problem, but unfortunately it would seem that this circus has taken up residence on a particular field, that of Gray's Field, where there is a memorial to the poet Thomas Gray. And it is within this domain that we have a particular chronicle tenet. Now, obviously only one evening, but I will still share with you the chronicle tenets for the evening. And those are that the river and land sustain us. And this is the key chronicle tenet that matters here. For to put a circus on a beloved green space such as Gray's Field is an offence to the domain. The other two chronicles are for service, to be honoured and rewarded. Here is a very traditional court, and all members of the court have a position of some sort and are expected to fulfil its responsibilities. But it is also here where your responsibilities take precedence over most of the status in the court, and you can find a neonate holding some power over an elder perhaps in certain areas. However, it's important you do your job properly, otherwise you could be brought low very quickly. And finally, the third chronicle tenet is to uphold the norms of decent society. So it is to this first chronicle tenet that the individuals have been tasked by the prince. This circus, it is not as though they have not tried to remove it through mortal channels, yet it has managed to resist, and unfortunately things are busy. And so it requires the attention of the court, and a delegation, a group has been put together as the prince and her advisors are pretty certain there is something supernatural going on. So the three of you have been tasked to find out, address and deal, and then to ensure that this circus is removed at the first convenience. The three of you have risen for the evening. We will not make rouse checks. You are all well fed for the evening and ready to undertake your duties for the court. You have made your way slightly north of Slough to the place of Gray's Field, and you have now managed to find yourselves meeting at the entrance to this blaring carnival that is spread out across the field, around the church, and to the nearby area. Please, if you'd like to introduce yourselves to the audience. Who wants to go first?
I will go first. Sandy is a woman in her mid-20s with short hair and a very colorful manner of dress. She does, however, look just a tiniest bit frantic all the time. She's always holding something, always trying to look as busy as she can. So even as she's standing here, she's either like tugging on her coat or fiddling with a shirt, just trying to keep herself busy.
And just out of interest for the audience, which clan are you a member of?
Clan Toreador.
Okay. Yourself, Natalie?
Yeah, so Laura is about medium height. She has medium length blonde hair, quite wispy, quite feminine features. She's about in her early 30s. She wears quite simple kind of like blouses, jeans and boots, quite plain looking really. And she is Clan Malkavia, and she is just kind of quietly surveying the scene currently.
And finally, Sam.
Yes, Captain Kingsley looks about 50 to 60, well dressed most of the time from his past in the Navy. He likes things to be shipshape, as it were. He's got kind of thinning grey hair, which is slicked back, and maybe just the start of some jowls around his face. And he is a Ventru.
Wonderful. So this delegation sent by the prince, all of you do have positions within the court. Notably, Sandy and Laura are neonates, and you hold positions. I believe, Sandy, you are the court chronicler, an individual who is... it's important that you know everything that is going on so you can inform everybody else of what is going on.
Utmost importance.
Indeed. Meanwhile, Laura, again a neonate, but you are a member of the Queen's Guard. This is an officious title for a hound within the domain. Most of the standard court positions having some affectatious alternate version that they seem to adorn themselves with. And so it is in that representation that you are here tonight as a representative of the court and as a deputy almost to the sheriff. And finally, we have the captain, who is the only ancilla in the group and a well-respected member of the court. He holds the position of bearer of the flag, a most auspicious title. And so the three of you find yourselves now here outside of this circus, a carnival, blaring with a large arch in front of you, upon which there is a title, The Bosco Brothers Circus. A flashing, wheeling carnival of sound and colours flowing before you. You can see before you the large monument of Thomas Gray that lies beyond the entrance in a circled area that seems to act as a central location for people to come and then disappear off in a different direction into the a roundabout, as it were, at the centre of the circus area. There's mortals running all over the place, kids screaming, music blaring around the place. It's quite the noisy place, quite lively. People seem to be enjoying it. Hand the stage over to you.
Sandy seems to be enjoying the lively environment as well quite a bit, and is just kind of looking around for people having a good time before turning to Dears and going, so, I imagine we'll have to find some sort of ringleader, someone to talk to. Wouldn't you say?
Yes. Do you think we should wait until it's calmed down a bit, or go in now? What do you think?
Laura, I'm not entirely sure it'll calm down at all tonight.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
Captain,
I'm
any
sure
thoughts?
I'm sure we can find somewhat of a leader in this monstrosity of lights on our perfectly good green space.
Right. Yes, of course.
Maybe we should check one of the larger marquees, perhaps.
Yes, I believe that
Yes.
would be a good place to start.
Okay. Well, let's go.
We'll head over, try and find one of the bigger stands, ask around.
Yeah, are you trying to ask around and find out who's in charge here? Yes, there's a couple of colourful sort of individuals on stilts who greet you as you come in, leaning down to you, and you're easily able to draw their attention towards yourself, and they'll say, "Yes, of course. The owners are the Bosco brothers. You can find them in the. Although they are busy, it is after all a busy evening. You can see." But they are, and they will kind of gesture off to one side and to a tent that is slightly larger than the rest. It's not a big top tent, but it is more significant than the rest around the place. They should be seeing to the performances for the evening.
Thank you. That is incredibly helpful.
Enjoy the carnival.
I certainly will.
You notice as you talk to them that the two of them do have something of an Eastern European hint to some of their accents.
Interesting.
As the group of you start to make your way in slightly, you will see that there's a few modern rides around the place, but not too many. There is a definite feeling of variety in the trimmings here, some older and some newer. It's a bit of a mismatch. For those of you of the more modernist persuasion, Sandy and Laura, this doesn't quite resemble the loud, busy, modern carnivals. Instead, there's a slightly older feeling to it. probably sets the captain slightly more at ease, these older trimmings. You can certainly hear the sound of a pipe and monkey organ over there, and see that there seems to be indeed an organ grinder with his monkey on his shoulder.
Interesting. I haven't seen a setup like this for a long time. Do we believe there might be some
Yes.
sort of...
It all looks a bit daft, doesn't it?
Is there some sort of ticket booth or other that we might gain entry to the tents?
There is indeed an entrance and people selling tickets on the gate. You can easily purchase yourselves tickets and start making your way into the circus proper.
I will certainly just stride and buy 3 tickets and hand one to either one of my companions.
Appreciate it.
Certainly.
Yes. Thank you, Captain.
Now, I realized that there were some concerns with the court about the nature of this place. Before we head on in and talk to these brothers, do you reckon we should at least try and see where those suspicions stem from?
Well, I
Yes.
think their main issue is that the circus is here at all. From what I understand,
naturally.
they've tried to remove it by mortal persuasion, but suspect there might be something darker behind the curtain.
Mhm. I see.
Well, we have all night, and the more information we have, the better, surely. So yes, maybe we should take a
Yeah,
little look around.
just seeing as it's such an odd mix of what's going on here, maybe there's something to be found.
Well, as the chronicler, do you not have minutes of meetings or some such that might contain notes of suspicions of this circus?
I imagine I do. See, do I?
It is, I mean, your position is less to do with officially minuting what has
Yes.
occurred. That's actually a position taken up by one of the members of the court. In actual fact, an individual by the name of Faith, who is the royal librarian. Her job is to specifically minute a number of matters of the court. Yours is more to find out kind of the more interesting twos and fro's of the court, the gossip, one might say.
One might.
So yes, if there's anything of interest going on, whether somebody's setting up a party for an evening, or somebody else having a book reading, or somebody else is organising some other matter, or if there's other interests or meetings between particular members of the court, then that stuff tends to get chronicled and shared with your little publications.
Right.
However, I mean, you might know a thing or two from around the court. Whispers of this place, what people have said whilst you were around. You've heard, that there are a few people who are... Nobody's actually been to visit this place because it's in a location that is somewhat forbidden. People don't particularly want to be associated with it. There is a definite issue, but people have commented, and you suspect that there are some who may have come here. You certainly heard, you think, a clanmate of yours, Callie and Anson, you suspect from a quick overheard conversation that they're the rule breakers. They're the ones who probably have come here and pretended that they haven't come here.
Mm.
So you suspect if anybody's got the goss on this, it's probably them.
Well, I'm afraid I don't have much in regards to official notes, though. I suppose I could try and reach out to Callie and Anson. Though I reckon we won't find them here tonight.
I mean, do you have their number? Could you give them a call?
Sure. I believe I have access to a phone. Let's see if I can ring Callie.
Absolutely. It will take a couple of rings. You are all aware that there is a court on tonight. One of the Bruya is presenting their child, an individual by the name of Piotr. And so this releasing of the child is busy. Normally you would be there, but it seems that instead the prince has been quite insistent that you visit this place first to address and deal with the matter before you are allowed to return to the court afterwards. As such, it will take a couple of times to get a hold of Callie and Ansem. Phones are a little bit frowned on within the court, but you'll soon hear the sound of her answering as she exits the building. Ah, darling, how are you? It's so good to hear you again.
Perfectly splendid. I'm actually wondering. First of all, terribly sorry I couldn't be at court tonight. I'm here at this.
We were all wondering where you were, Sandy. You're normally the life and soul of the party.
Thank you. You flatter me.
Ansem looks so sad.
Well, I will be there again soon. I sure hope.
Good.
And actually, I found myself at this most particular carnival.
Ah, you are at the carnival. I thought that was forbidden, Sandy.
Supposedly, yes. Though I am here on somewhat more. The court knows. Just let's keep it at that.
Oh, sounds intriguing. Well,
love to share more. So I couldn't help but overhear a number of nights back, you and Ansem might have visited as well.
Us visit? Oh, that would be against the rules, no?
Of course. And actually, the court doesn't need to find out. Though I could certainly need just the slightest bit of help. Just
you need help.
You've heard.
Well, you tell me and I will see what I can do. Obviously, there is some agreements already between us, no?
There is.
Perhaps if I can help you out, maybe we can call that little boon to an end, no?
Yes, I believe that we can.
What is it you wish to know?
You see, there is a reason why the circus hasn't been removed from the premises through mortal means. You don't happen to have any idea as to the reason they are so insistent on staying?
I see. Well, it had seemed somewhat strange for it to be in that place.
A little
obviously.
intentional, almost.
Yes. I must admit, there was an individual we saw who seemed to be taking a particular interest in me. There are many who do, obviously. It's hard not to. But this one was a little strange. I have never had a clown as a admirer before. He seemed rather strange, and there was something odd about him. Ansem and I were sure that there was something that maybe he was one of us, if you know what I mean.
I see.
Poor little sad thing with a flower flopping off of his hat, and big flappy shoes. He was so delightful, but as soon as we got close, I think he took fright at Ansem's size and ran off.
I see.
I did get the feeling there was something odd about the place.
I must admit, there is that sense here. It's an odd mismatch. If well, it's not your classic carnival. I've seen as much.
No, no. But yes, there were definitely there was a feeling that there was something more. And not just this clown. There were a couple of others who seemed strange.
You see, you've spoken to quite a few. I
We
imagine.
enjoy the place, that is all.
I'm right there with you.
Yes, I would certainly be interested to hear how you find the place yourself. But look out for the snakes. I hear that they can bite.
Yes. Thank you ever so
Um,
much.
It's a pleasure. Keep your eyes peeled. There is definitely more than one of our kind around there.
That is good to know. Thank you ever so much, Callie.
Well, do hurry along for the party. You're missing a great deal.
Am I really?
Mm.
I will make haste.
And she'll end the call and disappear.
It appears that we might be looking at a clown of some kind. Of our kind, perhaps even. So perhaps it is not the brothers that we are seeking at this point in time. Callie has mentioned this figure that stood out to her. As well as
Have we, while we've been around, sorry, I've seen, have we seen any clowns while we've been around?
Now that you mention it, yes, there has been. I mean, there's been a few clowns around, but there was a one in particular that seemed to be hanging around and giving you guys the side eye as you were kind of stood around watching. So while Stanley was on the phone, yeah, you caught sight of a couple. They're gone now, but yeah, you definitely saw a couple, and certainly one that seems to fit the description that Sandy was given.
excellent.
While you were on the phone, I did see a few clowns. They were just over there, but they seem to have gone now. One of them did sound a bit like the one you're describing.
Mm-hmm. That is interesting. Well, I think we should certainly try and find these first before we bring it to their managers to say, so to speak.
Yes, I think we should certainly go for a walk through some of the stands, perhaps.
Yes.
Okay. Are the group of you just making your way around the carnival area to take in the place?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think it would just be kind of saunter around, see what the mix of things are in terms of like, is it coconut shy and like bumper cars kind of thing. See if there's anyone that stands out behind the stands, maybe running one of the stalls or something.
Yeah, you will see that there, as I said, there's some modern elements like the dodgems or bumper cars. There's a number of games around the place. The Coconut Shies, a game with the targets and guns. But as I said, there are also some older elements. There's a mirror maze, a strongman show around the place, signs for a fortune teller, and also what looks to be a more old-fashioned Burnham-style freak show with a tent that's almost the same size as the one that the Bosco brothers were reportedly in. That advertises quite the range of attractions.
Is that even legal these days?
Not entirely sure. I'm not keen on finding out who they put in there. Buckley seems moral.
Yes, I took ethical issues with them when I first saw the things, and I'm not much more fond of them now, to be honest. I think maybe the strong man, unless he has polystyrene weights, might be something to investigate if he is truly stronger than average.
Oh. Suppose we shall head there first.
Okay. You guys start making your way across. Could I get from all of you, as you start to do so, an awareness and wits check? Just to see what you notice as you are wandering across the circus and keeping an eye out.
All right. Awareness and wits. Sandy sees very little and no successes.
That is, yeah, you are very focused, it would seem, on whatever it is that you're focusing on. Yeah, the distraction of Callie's words and saying that there's a party going on is really starting to bug you. You're missing out. The FOMO is starting to properly get at you a little bit. Meanwhile, we have 5 successes, critical win from Laura, the Hound, it would seem. And 3 successes from Captain Kingsley. So yes, Captain Kingsley, as you're making your way across, you will see the strongman's platform where there is him stood there posing, with the traditional leopard skin leotard, the belt, the slicked shortcut hair on top that seems like it's greased to his head, and then the wonderful twirly moustache. And he will be sort of moving and pulling up the dumbbells and lifting them up in a rather showman style fashion. And then it seems like people can challenge him to try and ring the bell. So obviously there's a hammer, a nice big hammer, and a bell for people to ring. As you're watching, you can keep an eye on it. It does seem like, people go up, pay a bit of money, and try to ring. And consistently, he seems to be able to beat them. There's even quite a burly-looking individual who kind of comes up, and size-wise, you're like, yeah, this guy looks pretty strong. I mean, as a strongman go, obviously they work out, so they're probably quite good at this. But you get that sense that you're not certain if maybe they're pulling a short con on this or something, but you're not entirely certain whether or not he's entirely naturally sort of strong. Meanwhile, Laura, as you're making your way across, there's just a sense, a tug, something that just a twinge, and you can feel it like a ripple in the air. And you kind of stop for a second, moving slightly behind the other 2, and just kind of not fully look over, but out the corner of your eye, you look over and you can see that there is indeed a clown. This individual is got large shoes, baggy clothes that mean that while he's not fat beneath that, he does waddle a bit like a penguin, sort of across. He's got the slightly garish coloured clothing and a large hat with a drooping, oversized daisy, stars in makeup over his eyes, and then the big droopy smile, sort of the frown. And he seems to be shadowing the group of you. And indeed, as you're kind of watching, not only that, he just seems to sort of, there's an oddity in how he moves through the crowd, almost as though they don't really see him. They just seem to avoid him a little bit, but you're kind of able to catch sight of him as you look through the crowd, and he seems to be watching you for definite. He doesn't seem to have noticed you yet, and he seems to be getting sort of closer. Are you wanting to do anything in particular?
Yeah, so Laura will kind of join the others and just kind of quietly, kind of like between them, be like, "Hey, clown you mentioned? I think he's following us over there." And she'll just gesture to where he was as discreetly as she can.
Okay. As you gesture over, you will notice that he's kind of doing that odd stealth thing that, like he runs across to a place, waddling, and then just hides behind the peanut stand. And it's not particularly good hiding. It's almost comical hiding from the clown. But, it does still manage to keep him, it fits his character. It fits the way that perhaps a clown is expected to move through the circus. And then he sort of disappears off and around a little bit more. And you'll quickly find that he's quite hard to spot through the crowd. But with Laura's help, the two of you can kind of see the cat and the daisy kind of making its way through and popping up every so often, or the flash of the colours of his clothes through the slightly more dull tones of the carnival goers. He doesn't seem to have noticed that the group of you have noticed him yet.
Well, if he is following us, maybe there's a quieter corner that we might be able to talk to him if he follows us there.
Yes, I very much agree. Perhaps in front of the strong man isn't the best place to have this kind of conversation.
You guys have reached the platform of the strongman now, and you can hear the teller just next to him going, come on, test your strength against the strongman. Ivan takes all customers. All comers, he will beat you all. You, sir, you look strong. Come on. Points over to you, Captain.
I will just kind of dismiss him. Oh no, I'm much too old for this. I've lost my strength now in my later years.
Come. It is only a couple of pounds, and you will see if you can test your all strong arms against this man.
No, he looks much too young and strong for me, thank you. He'll start to kind of wander off.
He doesn't push too hard, and you notice the strong man kind of gestures to him, and he kind of moves on to the next person to try and entice them up onto the stage as the group of you move away. Where are the group of you going now?
So if there's any space kind of like, I don't know, behind tents, or so not like behind the tents, kind of behind the scenes, but between stands where there's kind of the little corridors that get made that one might make a shortcut through if we kind of stick to those kind of quieter alleys of the carnival.
So the trio of you are trying to sort of make to lure the clown off to one side, are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Easy enough to track, but not making it obvious.
No problem. The group of you make your way off to sort of between a couple of the tents. It's not particularly hard to do. And as you do, you kind of find yourselves in a slightly darkened back part of the circus. Things are a little calmer and cooler, and the shadows in the darkness there that stretch out to the tree line just seem a lot darker with the bright lights behind you. It's does not take long until the clown sort of seems to meander his way in your direction. However, as he comes around the corner of the tent and sees the three of you kind of there, are you intending on doing anything particular?
I would like to kind of like find a corner and activate unseen passage.
Okay.
So that is a rouse check.
I believe a rouse check, so go for it.
Yep, I have failed.
Okay. Yes, you call upon the shadows around you, but in this place it feels a little unusual, and you have to draw upon your hunger a little more. And with that, the beast starts to rise slightly within you. Your hunger increases to 2. However, you are now hidden within the shadows off to one side. How about the other two of you? Laura seems to sort of step off to one side and disappears into the into the shadows.
If I am able to catch this clown's eye, then I will compel him to come to me.
Okay. He will kind of make a little waddling motion around the corner, spot the three of you on your own, as though this was a place that he'd intended to sort of hide into. And just in that moment, he does a little sort of jump, like a little starting jump, and as he sees the group of you, and then looks like he's about to turn and start waddling off. Just in that moment, you can just try to catch his eye and see if you can manage to command him towards you. You call on the blood. I believe doesn't require a rouse check this, so let us see how you do. I believe this is tested up against his resolve and intelligence.
I believe so. Is there any modifiers on this? So I've got like charisma, discipline.
So you will get the one extra point because you are using because you have a blood potency of 2. Do you wish to rouse before doing this, or
I don't think so.
no? So yes, it's just a charisma and then your discipline. So wow, yes. So 5 successes there. Not quite. You only got 110 on the normal successes, but that is enough. You catch his eye, and he's about to turn, and you go, "Come!" And he smartly turns, clearly not wanting to, and then just seems drawn towards you. And he sort of does that, almost leaning forward as though he's about to overbalance, and just kind of waddles sort of towards you, drawn as he is by your gaze, and kind of stops a foot or two in front of you, his head turning slightly.
It seems we have happened upon the same dark spot this evening.
He shrugs.
A mute clown. Hilarious.
Fascinating. I don't see why Callie would be so intrigued. If that were the case.
He kind of looks a little bit nervous in looking at the captain, but as he kind of catches sight of you off to one side, Sandy kind of breaks out into a smile and kind of beams at you. From out of his coat, he pulls a little bunch of flowers and kind of offers it over.
I will gracefully accept it. Those are very pretty. Thank you so much. Now, I believe you might have met a friend of mine a few nights ago. Had quite some things to share about you. She fears her partner might have scared you off.
He kind of puts his hand to his mouth and then, feigning shock, and then as you talk, he kind of turns his head and thinks, and then suddenly goes into sort of a big strongman kind of, gesture, sizing up his biceps, which are not so substantial, and then kind of nods at you in a sad way.
That happened. If you weren't scheming, were you?
He shakes his head.
Absolutely certain.
Nods his head.
I see. Well,
You don't look quite smart enough to be a schemer to me. I think you're more likely a follower.
He kind of does a weird, almost nods and then goes into a shrug again. and then literally boops a little horn on his lapel, which goes honk honk. You can see every so often that his eyes are kind of casting around, like he's clocked the two of you, but he's clearly nervous in the fact that, you know, he's not quite certain. There was definitely three of you before, and you get the sense and feeling that he's aware of that. Go ahead, Nat.
Yeah, so Laura wants to, if there is space, to get behind him.
Yes, it's no problem at all.
But while she's doing that, she wants to take note and see is he, you know, does there appear to be blood pumping around his body?
As you get close, you notice that no, from behind, it is clear that he is painted with with makeup, which makes it very easy. As a kindred, there's no need to rouse the blood to give yourself the blush of life if you are properly painted with makeup, it would seem. But his neck is pale, and he lacks any rise or fall from himself. It's, you know, he is very much, from the looks of it, a kindred.
Okay, so she will, as I say, be behind him, but not so much that she's terribly in his personal space. She's just behind him enough to stop an escape. She's not trying to intimidate him. And she will drop unseen passage and just say, can we stop this pretense? It's getting tiresome. We know what you are, and you know what we are. So let's talk, shall we?
As you kind of appear and talk, he'll kind of do a big jumping starting thing and kind of clutch his chest, stagger sort of either way, and then kind of seem to collapse off to one side.
Should have smirk at him and wait for him to recover.
He'll, you know, his eyes are closed as he's on the floor, and then he kind of opens one eye and looks up at you in a sort of cautious way, and then noticing that the group of you are clearly not taken in by his feigned fall, he will kind of wave himself, sort of fan himself slightly, and then start to get back up again. Look at the group of you, and then take a bit of a bow.
Captain is terribly unimpressed by all of this tomfoolery.
Mm.
And it's in his face that he is unimpressed.
The group of you will notice, I think, probably Laura, as you're stood there with your critical win from earlier, you're kind of observing, still keeping an eye out. You notice that there is definitely somebody who seems to be the strongman, appears to have made his way across and is currently kind of keeping an eye on you from a short distance away, just near the peanut stand.
Well, we are here on the authority, Prince. You should stop these silly games and tell us why you're here and what's going on here.
He'll kind of shrug slightly and gesture to his mouth and say, and then kind of takes something out of his pocket, but it's not something, he just pretends to take something out of his pocket, licks an invisible pen, and then just starts writing on what looks like an invisible piece of paper, and then folds it up and hands it over.
Does anybody have any paper on them?
Surely, Sandy will start looking.
You fiddle in your bags, and yeah, you've got a little pad of paper and pen
Several
for
pens.
making notes. Yeah. Are you handing over?
Yeah.
Okay. He will take the pen and write on the note. A little note, and he hands it over to Laura, and goes, "You are a family, yes? and then puts a question mark.
Laura will draw the symbol of her clan on the paper that's handed back to her and hand it back to him. then
He will
nod.
kind of look at it and nod enthusiastically at you.
Okay, now I've got a better look at him. Do I recognise him at all?
No, he is definitely not a recognised member of the clan from the city. Not one that you know about. He will take the pad again and write and say, Bogdan, English very bad, and then hand it over again.
So you are Bogdan. That is your name.
He smiles and kind of gestures, and then kind of offers his hand out to you to shake it.
Laura will hesitate for a good few seconds and look a little bit conflicted about it all, and then eventually tentatively just reach forward and shake it.
Okay. He'll then offer his hand to Sandy.
He shakes it. It's a tight grip.
Yep. His is less tight, it's just, he has weird gloves on that feel a bit odd and sort of slightly overly padded. And then he offers his hand to the captain as well.
Yeah, just a single firm shake.
Perfect. He kind of shakes your hand, and then suddenly there's a splash of water that explodes out of his daisy and sort of slams you in the face slightly.
The captain will do his best not to react, and then just kind of look at his wet shirt and yes.
Sandy's trying very hard to keep it together. I will reach in her bag for a handkerchief to hand it over to the captain. He's not
Captain
making
will,
eye contact.
Take his own handkerchief from his pocket and just kind of dab his face down.
Okay. He seems thoroughly amused with himself and will kind of be laughing silently to himself, sort of jostling around. And then he offers you a hanky, a very colourful one too, and then kind of keeps pulling lots of hankies out of his pocket and hands them over to you.
I'll just kind of let him unravel these hankies, but not take any of them, like even if they just kind of spill out onto the floor and pile up like a coil.
Okay. Yeah, he'll kind of, and then finally he'll kind of get he'll kind of look around at you and take the pad of paper back and say, "How Bogdan help?" And then hands that back over to you, Laura.
Are you one of the Bosco brothers?
He shakes his head sadly.
But they are in charge here, yes?
Kind of looks off to one side and goes, kind of does a seesawing motion, head bobbing to either side, the daisy flopping either way.
Right. Well, who else is potentially in charge?
To you, who's in charge?
Kind of look a little bit sheepish at this point.
Sandy wants to see if she can spot the strong man in the crowd still.
He seems to have disappeared now.
Captain will ask Bogdan, and who is the leader of our family for your carnival?
He kind of takes the pad again, writes, make trouble. Not a question, much more a statement.
No trouble at all. We just wish to discuss the placement of some of the rides and ensure that the grass grows back as it should.
He seems quite nervous, but could you, Captain, give me a? I think this is a charisma and persuasion check, unless there is some other way that you'd like to approach this.
I don't believe so. Asian charisma.
The others can help if you wish. This would get you some extra dice potentially.
Yes, and Sandy will bat her eyelashes very innocently.
I think, Sandy, you have a persuasion of 2, so you can get an extra dice to your roll, Sam. And I believe, Laura, what's your persuasion?
Yeah, mine's 4. So Laura will chime in and say, yes, the grass, you see. You know how the prince cares for the green spaces around. It's very important. That's all.
He kind of nods along at that. And I believe that gets you an extra success on top of what you've rolled. So you rolled 3 successes, and with the 1 extra from Laura, you appear to have managed to sort of win him over. The charm offensive from the group seems to have, and resilience against his water-based antics, seem to have managed to sort of get him to set aside some of his concerns. And he kind of eventually nods and kind of gestures to you to follow him. And he will start to waddle off back towards the in the crowd, basically. The group of you following in suit. He will wander in between various different people, stopping occasionally to entertain, or just entertain a child here or a child there, or play a trick on an adult. Not overly delaying the group of you, but basically doing his job as he makes his way through the carnival. It will take you a few minutes, and you will start to find yourself wending a distance away to a slightly less busy area. As you approach, you can see that you're traveling in the direction of where the fortune teller's hut is. It is an old affair, a painted traveling wagon with a delightful set of colours and patterns. But not only that, it is covered in plants that hang from either side, and little flower beds off of either on the sides of them too. The whole thing is quite substantial, not a tiny little traveling wagon, but instead something that's probably about 8 to 10 foot wide, substantial. And off to one side, in a sort of open stable, there are a couple of very large shire horses who seem to also be something of an attraction for a number of the carnival goers. He kind of leads you in that general direction. You can see that there is a queue currently for the fortune teller. He kind of gestures towards it.
Please do assure me we do not have to stand in this line. We are in, I wouldn't say much of a rush, but I do have places to be.
He kind of thinks for a second and then gestures with a finger up for you to wait, and then starts going off towards the wagon itself. Outside, you can see that there is a sign. Madame Yana is basically in session and basically asks people to queue, giving details about the kinds of things that she does, whether it's palm readings or crystal ball readings or tarot readings, and various different prices for each of them. He disappears off and up, and you will watch him go through the door, and then after a short while, he will come back out again. Are the group of you doing anything in the intervening time whilst he is popping in and out?
is the strong man lurking about?
No,
It
you
seems to me
can't.
that I do not see him. And I will tell you this as much.
Yeah, you don't see him anywhere at the moment.
I'll just be kind of surveying, like, who's going to see the fortune teller and see if there is anyone less than mortal in the queue.
Okay. I think with your keen sight, the group of you are not able to pick out any individuals who look out of sorts in the queue. Just simply a queue of mortals. Eager, most of them, from the looks of it, to have their fortune read. A number of them are certainly talking to one another about how apparently this fortune teller's very good, and has predicted love for her friend, or bad fortune for another, but obviously a way to address or deal with it. They all seem very eager for getting their reading. It's a little more anticipation than perhaps you'd expect for a regular fortune teller, but it's got a very distinct feel to it, this place.
Can we see anyone who's had their fortune read and is leaving, and just assess what they look like?
Yes, before there does indeed, as Bogdan goes up, somebody indeed does come out and seems to be sort of making their way off. They seem a little bit out of sorts as they're kind of walking down and kind of looking back over their shoulder at the wagon.
Curious.
Right. Well, if fortune teller is of our kind, then perhaps it shouldn't be that surprising that, perhaps a glimpse into the future. Make a career of it.
Yes. We'll have to see. I suppose we'll find out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, fortune teller's wagon is also a rather private place for a meal, one may consider.
Exactly, yes.
A few moments after the person who left looking over their shoulder, Bogdan also retreats, kind of nods to the group of you, and then seems to waddle off towards where the Shire horse and the people are there, kind of keeping an eye on you, but seems to be moving away.
All right.
A few moments later, the door will open to the wagon again, and a younger lady in her late 20s, curly blonde hair, grey eyes, with a kindly smile, the long dresses that jingle slightly with coins and jewellery attached. She wears sort of a headdress veil that comes down, and as she steps out, you can see that she is barefooted with ankle bells tied around her ankles. She kind of looks over to the crowd and goes, I am so very sorry, but I must see to a personal matter briefly. I will, as she comes down and flips over the sign, be taking a small tea break for a little while, and then I will be back with you all. There seems to be a little bit of consternation in the group, but she, seems to be able to handle this quite well. As she steps down the steps to the queue, you will notice that the strong man steps out of the door behind her and seems to be glaring at the group of you.
As the queue is kind of dispersing, I think the captain will kind of slowly walk over, kind of hands behind his back, assuming that this closing of the wagon was to meet with them.
Yes, this does seem like our cue. Sandy will follow behind the captain, just the kindest smile on her face, just the occasional glance to the strong man.
Okay. As the group of you move up, he protectively starts to make his way down the steps and sort of close behind her. As the queue are disappearing off, you hear him not hiding his voice in any way from you say, "Puskasela, что это будет безопасно?" He seems to be directing that towards her. She kind of gestures up a hand, saying, "Spokojnie, Ivan. U nas jest приглашение. Здесь у вас же такие традиции, no?" And that again, kind of back over towards him, but smiling at the group of you invitingly. I don't believe any of you speak. Are there any particular languages that the group of you speak?
Nope.
Nope.
Yeah, he clearly is quite put out, but at this he will kind of take a step back as she steps forward to greet you. She nods to yourself, Walter. "It is a pleasure to meet you this evening, this fine evening. I hope the knights are treating you well."
Yes, fine indeed it is. Walter Kingsley, son of Edward Moore. And he'll just kind of like give a little bow.
"It is a pleasure to meet you, Walter Kingsley. I am a Lady Yana. And this is Ivan. And it seems you have already met Bogdan." "Perhaps we might talk in private. It seems a little busy out here now."
Yes, I think that would certainly be best.
And with that, she will start to turn and walk up the steps. Walter, as you start to take one tentative step up these steps, there is a feeling, a pressure that you start to feel, a familiar sense. This place is important to her. And something within you is just not comfortable with the current circumstance.
May we come in for tea, perhaps?
I am not stopping you. I've had many guests tonight.
It is not a matter of stopping, just a matter of proper manners.
She will kind of look back at you. "Ah, you are of a traditional bent, no?"
Indeed, I hold tradition very closely to my heart.
"I see. Well, that is good to know. You are most welcome within my wagon this evening for our conversation. I offer you the invitation of hospitality."
I thank you, madame. And now step in.
She will kind of smile and equally the two of you are also most welcome to join. Please, come.
All right. Sandy will step up.
Yes, thank you. Laura will as well.
As you start to make your way in, you will find that this place is again bedecked with a range of flowers and hanging baskets around the inside as well. The whole place has a verdant feel to it. But additionally interspersed around that is not gloomy, but atmospheric, and she will quickly move in and around, taking a candle dowser to douse some of the candles that are still present within the room. This leaves the place with a couple of older-fashioned lamps there that give enough light, but at least there's no open flames to rile the beasts within you. She gestures to the table that has a beautiful shawl across it, a cloth, and then a shawl over the top, in the center of which there is a crystal ball and various different other elements of fortune telling, a few cups for tea, a deck of tarot cards off to one side. She will take her place on one side and gesture for the three of you to sit. There are enough chairs for the group of you. Meanwhile, the strongman, Ivan, looms at the door, closing it behind you. So, says Yana, what brings you here this evening to our little circus?
Well, Bogdan seemed to indicate that you were somewhat in charge. Is that right?
Yes, this is my traveling circus. Of course, it is prudent for us to make arrangements with mortals, no? Otherwise, it would seem strange for the same circus to travel year after year after year. Tell me, have you come here to enjoy the entertainments, or is there some other matter that needs to be discussed? You are welcome to entertain yourself, of course.
Well, there is the issue that our court is concerned with. It's the location that you have chosen to set up.
The location.
Yes. So you see, the land on which you've built your circus these nights is of importance to us, rather significant importance. We are concerned for how long traces of it will remain after you've passed on with your travels.
Is it not strange that a circus would put themselves in a field?
Certainly not, though this field in particular is...
Ah, it is of importance to you. Sacred, perhaps.
Well, you may have noticed the monument in what seems to be the center of your courtyard.
Oh, yes, a very useful item. It would seem to direct our various individuals. I had noticed there's a... It is to a poet, no?
It is indeed, but a poet's work who has influenced through the ages, one might consider.
Oh, one of you has a connection to this poet.
Well, no. It is more that, well, you know, the importance that the prince places in, the land, preserving the history of our domain. And obviously, this is a field of particular interest to the prince.
See, it is most upsetting. We do not wish to make offense to the prince. Might I ask, who exactly is the prince? I had believed that Prince Eithne was a most generous individual.
Prince Eithne is no longer holding that court position.
See. Ah. Well then, I do not wish to make offense to your new prince. But you have to understand, we were directed to set ourselves within this field. It seems strange that she would not know of this.
Directed by whom, may I ask?
By your Lord Chamberlain. He is the one who makes such arrangements, I believe. It is not entirely in the prince's purview to send out invitations to the domain.
No, but I might expect, as bearer of the flag, some notice of these things, so I might be able to properly welcome you.
Well, that seems most appropriate. I am glad you have come with such punctuality to see us. This would explain the mortals who seemed quite insistent on encouraging us to move. But I assure you, perhaps it would be appropriate. You are the bearer of the flag, you say.
Indeed.
Would it be you who I need to present our invitation to?
It would, though, as you say, it is not up to me to accept the invitation. I would only carry its message.
Well, then I will, if you will leave me one moment. She will turn, move across over to a cabinet and pull open a drawer. And from within it, she will pull a rolled scroll. She will then pass to the group of you, or specifically to Captain Walter. I think at this point, for your reference, it is there on the Roll20. For everybody else's home, this is the letter.
Ooh.
As you take it, it is clearly an old paper, Captain. More of a vellum than the more traditional. This feels old and feels solid, the kind of stuff that you were used to using back in the day.
Yes.
And for those at home, it is written on the 22nd of August 2007. It reads, are you reading it to just yourself, or are you?
I will read it to my companions if they seem to be intent on listening.
Okay.
It seems 'twas issued on the 22nd. Lady Yana, it has been too long since your troop has graced Windsor's green places as consort to the Princess of the Moon. I know that she wishes to share in the delights of your carnival before her light is extinguished by the pain of your absence. I know that your bright spirit and rosy countenance will help awaken her from even the darkest of places. Hence, on behalf of the royal personage, as Lord Chamberlain of the domain of Windsor, Lady Yana are most cordially invited to Graysfield to delight and entertain any and all who come till moon rises anew. It seems to be signed Trest.
For those of you who Dressed was the Lord Chamberlain of the domain, an individual who some 20 years ago disappeared. And it was his disappearance that shortly after led to the previous prince, Prince Eithne, both of Clan Malkavian. Prince Eithne went into torpor voluntarily, and a number of years after that, the domain was taken in a soft coup by the new prince, Prince Emeritus Shah. Walter, you will note that there is indeed a pair of seals, both on the letter itself inside and also on the outside sealing it, which seem to bear the crest of Windsor and also the cross keys of the Chamberlain. These would only be possible, I mean, they're possible to forge perhaps, but to be made with his relevant jewelry for his position.
So just a reminder, what's the date now? Like, how long has it taken them from receiving this letter to arriving
The date
on the
today
ring?
is the 27th of August. So it's 5 days since this letter was written, according to the date written on it.
Yes.
And it looks fresh. The letter's written in a red ink. You will also notice on the back as you turn it that there is a small set of symbols on the back too. Seem a little bit odd. However, the seals, the way in which it's put together, you're aware that this is the thing that is regularly sent. You know that there is essentially a letter, a courier service with pigeons and other elements that will basically transport communications, not via digital means, but for those of a more traditional persuasion, to get messages to people, which normally goes through Alan of Clan Nosferatu, who works down at the castle.
Well, this letter is certainly an interesting one. May I keep it for a short time? I'll be sure to return it to you if it has some significance for you.
It is, of course, our invitation, so as long as you give your word, then I would be most happy to accept it, that you will treat it with the respect it needs to be delivered wherever it needs to go and then to return to us, no?
I indeed give my word that I will return this invitation to you.
It seems strange, no? We have been invited here, but you seem a little unsure of the circumstance.
Just a
Well-
matter of the names on the letter. Just checking our own internal services, you see, that I wasn't made aware of this invitation as I should have been, as I said. I just wanted to check that our courier service is functioning as it should.
I see. Well then, as you can see, we have been invited. We are not due to stay here for that long, but I understand your rules.
Do the symbols on the back mean anything to you at all?
To me,
Yes, to you.
I'm sure just an affectation. Can you, Laura, give me an insight and wits roll?
Yes.
Do you wish to rouse for this at all?
No, because I'm already on 2. Yeah.
I'm just
Gary
tempting you that little bit. Get
No, no,
closer
no.
to that, please.
Okay, yeah, that's 4 successes.
4 successes. She kind of looks you a little bit up and down, and then seems to respond. I mean, you're pretty certain that there's something. I mean, she's either just playing with you, but there's something underneath that you think, yeah, she probably knows something about this. You just have that gut feeling that you have with people when it looks like she's trying to bluff, but you're pretty certain there's something there. She knows something more about it.
I mean, we don't really want to have to remove this lovely show you've got going here, but if you know more about these symbols, perhaps we can, take steps to ascertain if this letter is legitimate. And if it is, then of course the contents will stand.
See. Well, why do you have such an interest in these things?
Well, we were sent to carry out our duty, and that is what we are doing. This letter is odd.
Indeed. She will kind of casually reach off to one side and pull one of the cards from the tarot deck, kind of place it face down in front of her, and then, almost like a gambler, lift it up. I see. Well, perhaps there is a message here for me. Perhaps it is one that will have some importance to you too. Is that why you have an interest in it, in such things?
Doubt what's going on, but as I say, how best we can help you.
I do not pretend to know what is in the mind of an elder of your clan. But perhaps you would have better insight into it.
Very well. Do I recognize the symbols in any way? Do they mean anything at all?
Obviously, the name Drest has some importance to you. You are aware that you arrived, was it before he went or disappeared, or was it after?
I think it was after.
So you have heard of him. You have come here seeking him because you know that he is one of your ancestors, in fact. Somebody that you were related to. And you have not found much about him, but you have found a few other elements. This seems odd. Can you give me a... No, I'm afraid it does seem very odd. It's not anything that you particularly would note or bears any resemblance to anything you recognize, but who knows, other people might do. But now that you read through this, I mean, you've read, you've listened to the letter. I believe the captain still has the letter, does he?
Yes, indeed. Yep.
You're not handing it to the others to read, or are you?
I will hand it to them, kind of like if they seem like they wish to inspect it. But I'll still just be holding it kind of in my hand for someone to take if they wish to see it.
I'm imagining you'll probably need to take it to have an inspect of this.
Yeah, Laura will kind of tentatively hold her hand out.
Yep, I'll just pass it over.
Okay. As you take a look through it, I mean, you have read a number of elements around Drest, and it just seems a little bit odd. From what you've seen or read, he was pretty matter of fact. This seems quite unusual, a little bit flowery for what you've seen before. As you have looked, he was a warrior and somebody who was pretty much simple, straightforward orders. This imagery, these words on this page just seem a little at odds from what you've seen in anything else that you've seen written by him when you were going through the various different archives or documents that you've had access to. And certainly those symbols don't seem to flag anything. However, the marks in the wax do appear to be quite clear and real. Each of you will have some form of jewelry for your position and equally be able to use that to make a similar mark as a mark of your position with some sealing wax. So this is not unusual, and it looks pretty authentic.
Well, the reason I find this particularly strange is that although I never knew Drest personally, he is an ancestor. And from what I hear, he was quite a practical man. Such language and such neat code doesn't seem like it would be, very him.
Then I do not see where we can go from here. We have received a letter of invitation. You are saying that the prince does not welcome us to this place. But it would seem that we have been invited. However, the person we were supposed to be invited by has not come to meet us. And so perhaps we were mistaken in visiting.
Well, as I had said, we will investigate this evening the matter of this invitation and return to you with an answer one way or another on the nature of the invitation and your further stay in Windsor.
Of course, if you can express my apologies to the prince, and we perhaps can discuss how long we might be able to stay. Obviously, it takes us a little while to move on, but we can normally do so in a couple of days, if needed.
I will certainly let them know. And I'll kind of expectantly hold my hand out to receive the invitation again from Laura.
Laura will almost kind of drop it in her kind of eagerness. Oh, sorry, give it back.
In fact, as you hand it over and start to drop it, it kind of passes over the lap of Sandy. And Sandy, as it kind of falls, you can kind of catch it. And it's in this moment as you catch it that your vision starts to darken. The world around you dulls to a voidless nothing. Through that darkness, you can hear a slow dripping that seeks to draw you back from the nothingness, pulling you towards until you hear the steady flow of running water, the sounds of birds and insects around you, and the feel of a lush loam underneath your feet, bare feet, surrounded by this heady scent of nature. You open your eyes to find yourself seated at a desk, an old writing desk. Before you, there's a letter. In your hand, a quill, and you seem to be finishing the last letter of the name. Your hand instinctively taking the quill to put it back into the inkwell, but there is nothing there, no inkwell. You cast your eyes around, and as your eyes glance to the left, you see your arm lying upon the desk. The wrist is a ragged wound, thick vitae spilling out from it and setting like wax to the table. For a moment, everything had been tranquil, but that tranquility is shattered and broken as you suddenly come to your feet. You rise too fast, your head thumps and pounds, and there's a terrible lurching feeling inside the pit of your stomach. Then light catches your eyes. You look up and there's a mirror catching that light. But within the recesses of the darkness, there is a face. Your reflection. You start to concentrate, to focus on it. It's a pale face, eyes dark, with makeup around it, creating dark pits, and hair, the shock of electric blue, standing to alert like a lizard's crest. You can't help but stare at the visage. It's familiar and alien at the same time. But the more you stare, the more your head pounds, and the more there's ignoring pain in your belly, until eventually you can finally control it no longer, and you unleash a sheer primal screech out at that mirror. And in that moment, it cracks, it breaks, and the darkness floods back in again. And it's there we're going to go for our break. Thank you, everybody. Shout outs. Do you guys have any shout outs to the people out there before we disappear off? No?
Much.
Hello?
Love you guys.
Yep,
Thanks for
absolutely.
tuning in.
Love you all. Thank you ever so much for Mitch for helping set up the wonderful setup for our beautiful starting screen and this lovely arrangement around us. And obviously our tech ghoul, Peter, doing his vigilant job in the background. We love you guys. And obviously all of you out there, our sword-wielding moderator and all the rest of you. So in which case, we're going to go for a 15-minute break. And we will be back with you at 10:02. So take care, everybody, and we'll see you in a bit. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to our one-night mid-season spectacular, Slough by Night. So, picking straight back up where we left off, the group had gone into the wagon, had a conversation with Lady Yana, and received a letter inviting her and her circus to the domain. Upon passing this backwards and forwards and some inquisition on what the particular symbols on the back of it might have meant, the letter fell into the hands of Sandy, who was lost for a few moments in a vision. To everybody else around the table, Sandy will have slumped briefly as the letter fell into her hands, and will then have come back with perhaps a slight jolt, almost like she'd fallen asleep briefly and then kind of woken up with a slight start and maybe a yelp as well. Certainly not a scream, but a slight yelp. We'll bring ourselves back in there.
My apologies. Captain, your invitation.
Thank you. He'll take it and just kind of tuck it into his jacket.
What happened to you? Are you all right?
I am quite alright.
Lady Yana will pour a cup of tea and then hand it over to you. A restorative brew. I am sure you will feel yourself in moments.
Thank you. But I am quite alright. This it happens occasionally that I lose myself to visions not quite as pleasant as I would have liked.
Ah, you are an oracle.
I wouldn't go that far to say as such. It's vague at best, all of it.
One should not dismiss such talents. They are important. I have made a good living upon it. And on such a matter, I am afraid our time is up. I must see back to my customers. At least for this evening, I have made them a promise to see their fortunes.
I hope they are bright.
I do the best I can to help them.
Sunny will get up.
Thank you for your invitation, and kind of a little bow, and then I'll just leave the wagon.
Yeah, you will all manage to leave under the slightly imperious stare of Ivan as you all kind of make your way out. He's stood on the porch going to keep an eye on you. Yana will kind of follow out and say, "You are more than welcome back at any time. Good night." And with that, she'll make her way down to start turning the sign around, and you can see that the customers have already come back and lined up, and she starts to welcome them back into her hut.
So I suppose we should probably go back to the court. Look around there.
Yes, indeed. I think we certainly have some questions to ask.
Yes, so before you do, on our way there, I do believe that it might be relevant to tell you about what I saw, especially for you, Captain. Um, it appears to me that this letter, this invitation, is written in Vitae. Just a thought. To whom it belongs, I'm not entirely certain. I saw someone blue hair. I don't. That description doesn't really ring a bell with me, I believe. So it was all rather distressing. And
Blue hair, you say?
yes,
Hmm.
right.
Well, I certainly know of one that might wear blue hair in the more modern style.
It appears they lost themselves to 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 this side of the wounds, to the spilled vitae moments after. At least that's what I've seen. The accuracy of which I can't tell you much about, but I do feel that it might pertain the same invitation.
Yes, indeed.
Who do you know with the blue hair, Kingsley?
Well, there was a matter a while ago now of a courtly misstep, you might say, by a young fledgling was being introduced, and he had a rather radical hairstyle, I might say. I can't quite remember if it was. I'm quite sure it was blue at the time. It's unlikely that we will find him at court. He doesn't often attend, but we might find someone who would know where he was.
I see. Well,
As the group of you are stood there talking, Laura, your eyes will cast across, and you've been stood outside this wagon for a little bit beforehand, but as you kind of stood here again and contemplating it, you do notice that there's a couple of similar patterns in the designs and spirals and outlandish kind of imagery that's on the side of this wagon, which does bear a little bit of a resemblance to the icons that you'd seen on the back of the letter. It's not obvious, but you've got sharp eyes and you just kind of pick up and see again what looks like essentially like a moon. I mean, it's not unusual to see a moon on the side of a fortune teller's thing, but the design just looks very similar. And similarly, there's a sort of a sun, but the way in which the sun is depicted, of which there can be many, is also quite similar. There's just a few similarities that just stick out.
Yeah, the symbols on the van do seem very similar to the symbols on the letter, don't you think?
I will pull out the letter from my jacket and kind of, inspect the symbols and see if I can find the matching patterns on the caravan.
Yeah, you can see the similarity. It's in the same way that one person draws something, another person draws something. If you're slightly less artistic, you probably go, No, they're slightly different. There's but from an artistic standpoint, there's definitely a similarity in how those things kind of are drawn or depicted. There's differences, but they're similar.
Maybe it is something of a delivery address, perhaps. That's I imagine. The caravan doesn't stay in one spot for long.
Maybe. Laura will take out her phone and just take the symbols on the wagon.
Mm-hmm. No worries.
Well, I suppose we better go to court then.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, that sounds wise.
Under the disapproving glare of Ivan as you take your photo and then start making your way off through the fanciful carnival back out to the entrance and to your various modes of transport, you begin to start settling in for the journey back across the domain, which is a substantial domain. From the north of Slough, you have to travel across down to the M4, underneath and over to the other, or across the M4 and over to the other side where Windsor is. The Elysium this time is within the theatre. Specifically, it is an old Edwardian building, a beautiful place, and it is one that the prince often hires for the purposes of a gathering on occasion. You will easily find yourselves parked and welcomed by the security on the door. An easy journey, but it is now pushing probably midnight, if not a bit later, as you're starting to arrive. However, that seems to not have abated the atmosphere as you arrive, which is still in the full flow of court. It seems a great many people are indeed present tonight to welcome and celebrate a new arrival to your fraternity.
With my knowledge of ceremonies and the order in which they happen, would I expect that they have been presented by midnight, or are they yet to be presented by the looks of the proceedings?
Everything is already done and dusted, and now the business of the court is no doubt in full flow. From the looks of it, people are off in their own little cliques or making different arrangements with one another. Typically, as these things are not that frequent, there's quite a lot gathered. It will probably go on until the early hours, but you reckon in an hour or two people will probably start leaving, apart from those who like to stay till the end.
So, do any of you know where we can find the postman or whatever his title is?
Master of Keys is a Nosferatu, and therefore quite easy to spot. And I'll kind of cast around the room to see if I can see him.
Yeah, you glance around the room and you will notice that there seems to be a knot of Nosferatu over in the corner who seem to be in conversation with one another. They are notable, as there's normally a bit of space around them. Alan is easy to pick out. He is in a uniform from the palace. So with all the regalia that you would normally expect, he has turned up properly, formally arranged as a bit like a beefeater, in garb, but slightly different. The black complementing the feathered quality to his skin, the almost raven-like aspects to his nose and face that make him look quite inhuman.
I will slowly approach the group of Nosferatu and just, once I've gained Alan's attention, just kind of give a small bow. And Master of Keys, I wish to have a word with you in private, if I may.
He kind of sheepishly looks around for a second and says, well, of course, if it's official business, I'm just busy talking to my clanmates.
is indeed official business. It's about the sending of a letter.
Yeah, well, of course. He kind of nods to the other two, Donna and Tim. You can smell Tim from a distance off, and Donna has a rather beautiful but odd quality to the way that she looks. Kind of dismisses them, and they start making a route away. And he makes his way towards you. Are you? Is it all three of you together, or are you wanting to get him alone?
I won't stop the other two from following me in my investigation.
Yeah, Laura would have followed.
Sandy?
Reluctantly follows, but does try to find Callie and answer to like make eye contact. Like, I'll be there. Eventually, I'll be there.
Oh yeah, they are
Silent message.
lording it over. Talking to a couple of the other Toreador. There's an elder who they seem to be extravagantly talking to, who seems to be humming a tune, singing over in the corner off to one side. With the Primogen sort of sat off to one. They seem to be in a bit of a clump doing their own little thing. They don't seem to be paying much attention to you at the moment, just lost in their own world as they are.
Great.
But yeah, you kind of gather up. As you start to group up, you will notice, Walter, that there is, you catch eyes of Piotr stood there, in a place of honor with his child, Janice, who's just been released, and his eyes sort of lock onto you as you start to make your way across the room. Clearly, he's kind of been receiving people to sort of acknowledge his child, and you are conscious of the fact that obviously you guys have now arrived and it's probably done to go and present yourself at some point.
I am aware of this, but I am still going to talk to Alan first. But I am going to kind of I'm going to intentionally not look at Piotr, just so that it's not that like I've looked at him and dismissed him. It's that I just haven't got to you yet, kind of.
Mm-hmm. No, understood. So the group of you cordon off with him off to one side. There are side elements to have private conversations. He goes, yes. What is it exactly? Three of you.
Do you recall sending this letter? And I'll produce the letter with the seals and things on it.
He will kind of look over it and say, yes. We definitely sent that one. It did seem rather odd, considering the seal, but sometimes Kindred will leave things for a number of years before wishing to send them.
I understand that. And do the dates on the letter usually represent when they are written or when they are intended to be sent?
He'll kind of narrow his gaze and, may I just... and he kind of
indeed.
to open up the top and look at the date and says, well, we did indeed send this 5 days ago. Yes. If memory serves. He seems to recall to himself. Yes.
And did you receive it to be sent shortly before that, or has it been in your holding for a number of years?
No, it was recently delivered. It did not come, obviously, it is marked with the Lord Chamberlain's seal, and such things can be official or can be personal. It depends upon the matter. But simply, we do not ask questions. We do our job and deliver the appropriate things to the appropriate people at the appropriate time. However, this one, you can see him racking his mind. Yes, I believe it was delivered by the Tremere. It was on the Young Faith, I believe, of the Royal Librarian who delivered it.
And it didn't strike you as unusual because the Lord Chamberlain has been out of office for a time?
She is the Royal Librarian. She maintains all the relevant documents for the court. If he had perhaps a few decades ago left something in keeping, ready to be transported at the appropriate time, then it would be certainly her who would deliver such things, I would imagine. You could ask her yourself, but I'm afraid she does not seem to be in attendance tonight.
And I don't suppose you might know where she is.
I'm afraid not.
Well,
I'm not in the habit of keeping tab on the prince's wards.
well, thank you for your assistance.
If you wish to know where she was, I'm sure that there are people who can point you in the right direction, however, for the appropriate price. Not myself, however. Anyway, was there anything else?
I'll kind of look either side of me to see if there's anything from these guys.
No, I think that covers it.
Yes.
Seems surely kind of looks over towards you, Laura, considering you are his child by lengthy descendancy. Would you not have any knowledge of this matter yourself?
No, I have no knowledge. I find it curious. Wish to know more, but no, I have no knowledge at all.
Well, we shall see. Anyway, I'm afraid I cannot help you anymore. As I say, I should probably see to my clan. And you see him nervously kind of looking around as he's kind of talking to you.
Yes, thank you for your assistance, Alan. I suppose we have other things to be doing.
I can at least confirm that we've done our job properly. This was certainly delivered as appropriate. One is not wanting to let down one's position, no?
Yes, indeed. A very important thing to be doing.
Exactly.
Good. With that, he will kind of bow to the group of you and kind of grooming his feathered face a little, will start to make off.
Well, I think we should probably follow the proper procedures and go and congratulate Piotr on his child being accepted into the city.
Right, of course.
I suppose.
And I will, approach Piotr, who I assume is standing in, some sort of staged area waiting to receive people.
Yes, he is standing imperiously waiting, and there are some individuals who are kind of there, wishing their best as you approach. You'll notice that he will kind of smile and give you a nod, and then begin to talk to them, and talk to them, and talk to them, and I think probably Sandy and Laura, you'll notice that this is an awkwardly long period of time that he seems to be talking to these. I mean, it's reasonable conversation, but seems to be keeping the group of you waiting.
Do we really? I mean, given our mission here, can we not just skip
No,
this? Do this in the night?
No, we must. I feel, firstly, procedures must be followed, and secondly, maybe he could let us know where the seals of the Chamberlain are. If this letter was written recently, then he might have hold of the seals as the master of the jewel office. And I will, bow deeply and very loudly announce my presence to Piotr.
Oh,
Just, Piotr, master of the jewel office, I congratulate you on your child being welcomed into the city.
Okay, you're trying to force yourself forward to try and oust, the the individuals who are currently being talked to.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Yeah. Fortunately, the individual that they are talking to is not as important. It's Liam O'Connell, one of the Toreador, who seems to be giving his best. He is also an ancilla like you, but he is not as respected as you in the court, and so you can use your status, your position to kind of force yourself forward, and essentially Liam will back down and start to take a step back. And the other two of you, I mean, it feels a bit rude, but at the same point, I mean, you know that the captain has good standing in the court, so this is not unreasonable for him to force his position. It is, however, a bit awkward. Sandy, you're feeling a bit more relieved now because, at least things are moving on.
Yeah. Yep. They're moving.
Piotr will say, yes, well, it is good of you to finally turn up, I suppose. You unfortunately missed the release earlier, but I suppose you have good excuse.
Yes, indeed. We were attending to business on behalf of the Prince of the new arrivals to our domain, shall we say. You may have noticed the carnival on the northern side.
Well, certainly. So, it is kind of you to turn your attentions here, and I present to you my child, Janice. He will kind of turn, and this lady will, bow to the group of you, looking as nervous as perhaps you remember feeling on your first day of release in the court, sort of like a sheep in the headlights.
I will bow and introduce myself, child, just going all the way up the chain.
Yep. Very formally.
Yes.
He kind of sighs. He is a brewer, but he is a little bit more pretentious as brewer come, and that's probably one of the things that rubs you up so much about him. But he kind of listens and nods, and you can see him starting to kind of, his nostrils flare slightly as though, until eventually you come to an end, and then, very good. I'm glad that you have been able to present yourselves.
Yeah,
I know.
so Sandy keeps it very brief. Introduce yourself. Says, we should have a chat at some point. There's no lineage mentioned. Just Sandy is fine.
Well done, I guess, and good luck.
She
It's
goes,
Laura.
By the way.
yeah, it's nice to meet you both. I'm sure, maybe we'll get a chance to catch up at some point.
I would love nothing more.
She kind of smiles, sort of relieved at the lack of quite the heavy formality that the other two are kind of overbearing with. Greetings done. Piotr kind of looks beyond you to the next person who seems to be making their way. There's not really that many people. There's like one or two other people who seem to be hovering, as though to sort of dismiss you.
Just before we go, Piotr, do you currently hold the seal for the Lord Chamberlain's office?
Is this really the time to be doing this?
Just a yes or no will suffice, please, Piotr.
I do not have my ledgers to hand, I must admit.
Well, maybe I will come back to you on the matter at a more convenient time.
The Lord Chamberlain, you say?
Indeed.
Well, it's been so long since we have looked at the position considering circumstances.
I am aware. And I will leave with just a small bow, and then leave to kind of let the next people come up.
Yeah, and you are aware that the Lord Chamberlain position has not been filled since Dress. There's been something of a political deadlock, as it is not a position that the Prince appoints. It is one that is agreed across a range of people, as this court is slightly different in how that position is appointed. The Privy Council, or Primogen, are involved in that, and currently there is something of a stalemate, as it were, in the political circumstance. And so, because Durest is still theoretically out there, there has been no urgency to replace the matter. The other two of you will notice what he said. Are you staying, or are you kind of...
Oh, perhaps we could speak later in the evening to have a look at those ledgers. It would be useful to our assignment.
Oh, well, is this a matter that the Queen's Guard are looking into, Miss Tilson?
Yes, it is.
Oh, well, then I would be most delighted to help the Queen's Guard.
Ah,
I
excellent.
believe, if I recall from the last time I looked through the ledgers, none of the jewellery of the Lord Chamberlain has been returned. It was kept by the previous incumbent, dressed. Your clanmate, I believe.
Yes,
Hmm.
that is right.
Yes, the ring, the chain of office, and the mitre are all still residing in his possession, as well the official crest of the House of Windsor, so that he might seal official business.
Right. Well, thank you. Do you, by chance, happen to know where he may store some of these items? A particular place he used to call home? We can look at.
Of course, we do not share our addresses and haven details to one another, so I'm afraid I have no knowledge. I'm sure, as you do, you keep your jewellery in the most safest of places, no doubt.
Oh, of course, yes. Awkwardly fiddles with her bracelet, which is where the seal is. Ah, well, thank you for your.
I'm sure that no others will have found an elder's hiding place easily. Anyway, if there is any other matter you require my assistance on, I would be more than happy to help. He nods to the two of you, and you can see him sort of smiling and smirking over the corner of his mouth towards the captain.
Ah, you don't happen to know where Faith might be, do you?
Faith? Hmm. No. No, odd. She has not presented herself here this evening. In fact, she has missed a meeting or two, I believe, in the last week that I was expecting. Which is unusual of her. She is normally quite diligent. Her duties.
Okay, well, thank you.
Well, if you'll excuse us, I believe we have a few others to see. And with that, he will kind of move on to the last couple of people that seem to be lining up to welcome the new arrival.
Well, he was quite helpful in the end.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yes, we have something of a history, as you may have noticed. He is not my he's not my best fan, one might say.
Well, don't skimp out on the details.
Oh, we just had a little many years ago, something of court positions, and I won't go into it now.
All right. Suit yourself. Let's see. Captain, do you have any other pressing matters to attend to? I do believe I have some clanmates that I have to briefly speak to.
No, I think I should probably go and talk to my own clan as well.
Very well. Laura, do you need anything still?
Well, we still have to continue our investigation, but I suppose it wouldn't harm for me to ask a few questions of my clan. But I suppose the main thing is to find out where Faith might be.
Yes, I do believe that's a good course of action.
Okay.
I'll ask as well. Just to see.
So, who are you disappearing off to see?
Sandy wants to have a chat with Callie if she can, but
Yep, absolutely. She is kind of lording it with a number of other individuals. There's her, and there's an individual, a Welsh toreador who's from Cardiff, who's an opera singer, and apparently doing here some research. And she seems to be with talking to him. She is a very voluptuous individual, Callie, very elegant, dressed for the evening as appropriate, and beside her in a tuxedo, filling it out quite immensely, is the Aryan style. Caucasian, blonde hair, blue eyes, Ansem, who is silently there, just kind of handsome but quiet. She turns and says, "Ah, darling, it's so good to see you. I'm glad you made it in the end."
as am I. How much have I missed? Please tell me something happened.
Oh, everything. Well,
Actually, don't tell me.
the best is yet to come, of course.
Of course. Of course. Do you have plans?
Always a little party after this, maybe, for a few select individuals. So, did my information help at all?
Oh, it is more than helpful, though. Really, I must admit that I'm surprised, having talked to the fellow myself. Well, talked, I suppose, is an overstatement.
Really? Do tell.
I think he was rather entertaining, though perhaps not in the way that he intended. I'm mainly concerned with the others.
The others?
Yes, did you not? You see, there was this strong man. I figured that one would have caught your eye for certain.
Oh, you will have to forgive me for wanting to keep someone to myself. You want to snatch him out from under me, I guess.
Oh, darling, I would never, never. But no, it's quite the complicated situation. You wouldn't believe.
Oh, really? Please do tell.
And Sandy will, if she can, like away from like too many prying ears, like kind of reiterate that the letter about how the visit was apparently expected but also unexpected.
She will listen raptly as the two of you, you talk. Anson is there as well, kind of keeping a vigil. And you talk through, and he, at a point, says, "Sandy, this letter, it talks of the moon.
Yes.
You say you have had visions.
Mm-hmm.
I too have had visions. The moon is full now, and it is coming. The blood moon will arrive soon, you know."
Moon, you say?
I have seen that there will be great blood to come under its gaze. You know that it's rare for Ansem to talk. I mean, he tends to stay silent. This is one of those rare instances. But you are clanmates. He never talks to generally other individuals. But I am worried about what you have said you have seen.
My, it was quite the sight, and Sandy will kind of rub at her arm. It unsettles me. I do not fully understand it, where this letter has come from. We're trying to find out.
Hmm. I think there are warnings.
Mm.
Warnings of the things that are to come. You have seen it now, and I have seen it. And Caddy will kind of slap him on the arm and say, "Oh, stop being so serious, darling. Come along. We are here for some fun, no?"
Of course. Is with great regret that I might have to tell you that this issue might not be over for me quite yet. So do excuse me if I make any other sudden disappearances.
Well, you will join us at the poetry evening in a few nights' time?
Of course. I wouldn't want to miss it.
Good, good. Then we will see you there. I understand duty takes precedence here. But, and if you have need of anything, I'm sure that Ansem is worrying for nothing. But you do see in her eyes that she is a little bit shaken. She smiles and kind of excuses herself with him. Laura, you're kind of stood there and you suddenly there's this smell that appears out of nowhere. It's quite prominent, quite pungent. It's got a deep scent to it, like moist grass that's just been left too long and started to rot. Turn and you can see there that there's Tim, one of the Nosferatu. Seems to be in his overcoat, pulled tight, which you think is an effort to try and cover some of the worst of the smell.
Oh,
Hey?
hello there. Tim, you look good this evening.
Aye lass, aye lass.
Can I help you?
I was thinking more how I could help you. I heard you talking to Piotr there. You was asking after Faith.
Yes, that's right.
Well, I heard she was in a bit of trouble, so to speak.
Oh,
You know, not the kind of thing that the Tremere like being talked about, though. So, how about we step aside?
okay, yeah, that's fine. She'll follow him.
There was some noise. Yeah, the brew. No doubt Piotr's covering up a bit. Don't know if he actually knows or not, but I heard a couple of rumours from Lady Fox and Fajir that they've been negotiating with the Anarchs, like, and well, got a rumour they're a bit upset that Faith's been poaching on their territory.
Right. Okay.
You know, worse than that though. A couple of them went chasing her after it. Didn't come back.
Oh. Okay. When was this? Exactly.
I mean, this is it's only a night or two ago. They're up in arms about it. It's why Lady Fox and Fajir aren't here. They're down trying to keep a lid on it, you know.
Right. Okay. And where did they go find her?
Where did they find her? Apparently she was, just north of Slough, round near the forest. They followed her into Burnham Beaches and didn't come out. It's all on the chatter, you know.
Interesting.
Aye.
Well,
So
thank you for this. Very helpful.
then again, I didn't hear that she came out either, so who knows?
Do you know if there's someone who may know more?
And you could either talk to the Bruyere about whatever the hell's going on with the Anarchs, or talk to the Gangrel about the forest, I suppose.
Okay, well, thank you again. Very helpful of you.
No worries, just helping out, if you know what I mean. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, that kind of thing.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes. Well, you've been very helpful. Of course, I assist you in a similar manner.
Yeah, you know. Sure you'll find a way. Anyway, catch you around.
Goodbye.
He'll kind of skulk off away.
Laura will enjoy the fresh air.
It is a lot more pleasant now. Meanwhile, Captain, what are you up to? Whilst the others are...
I'm looking for who of my clan is around, particularly if I can spot any bright blue hair around the court.
Yes, you're looking for Blue Hawk, aren't you?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, you can absolutely find Blue Hawk. He's around. Seems to be on his phone, off to one side with a foot up irreverently in one of the sort of the side booths. You know, just doing something on the phone. Doesn't seem to be really paying much attention to the goings on, and is kind of in his own little world.
Is the groom of the stall between me and Blue Hawk?
Yeah, certainly you can get hold of the groom if you wish.
Yeah, I'm certainly going to call him over just to go and tell Hawk that I'd like to have a conversation with him.
Yeah, so Lance, the Vontru, who is basically everybody's lackey, not just in the Vontru, but in across the court. Groom of the stall is just the shoddy position that you just get ordered around to do everything by everybody. So you grab him, and he's like rushing around, trying to be helpful, and you kind of send him over and to give him the task of rousing the young, short Japanese sort of heritage Blue Hawk with this shock of blue hair, and it kind of, you can see it takes a bit of encouragement. He rolls his eyes a couple of times, and eventually, almost like a teenager, kind of makes his way out of the booth and over towards you. What do you want?
Well, I was just wondering if you'd heard anything of the carnival and the Lord Chamberlain recently. Apparently, they're here on his behest.
Well, I'm interested in a carnival.
Well, I don't know. Young people go to carnivals, don't they?
It seems a bit old for me, you know. I'm all in the digital sort of space, you know. I'd rather be playing with my boys online.
Yes, well, I've never quite understood that, but I don't suppose you've heard from the Lord Chamberlain recently.
Nope. And I hope not to hear. He sounds like a scary fucker.
Why do you say that?
Because, you know, I've heard the rumors. He's not bad with a sword. I mean, just pretty much feels like, you know, he could stare you into the ground and melt you with his eyes. I don't know. Is that what they do? And, you know, he's Pavian, so he's probably a little bit crazy too.
Well, I wouldn't cast those kind of aspersions at everyone you meet.
I'm not, you know, probably wouldn't if you were around, but not been around, so who cares?
Yes, I suppose not. I wonder, have you in your online spaces seen anything similar to these symbols on the internet? And
And
I'll
showing the
show him
symbols.
the symbols that are on there.
You kind of look at it and go,
I'm gonna
nah,
try and
that look better.
investigate his face while he's doing this.
He does a very odd scrunchy uppy thing with his face. It's sort of all over the place, and he's like, nope, those look like hieroglyphs or something, like them Egyptians use and stuff. They look old school, man, like you.
Like me, right?
You know,
Well, I'm
it's
not
just like
quite.
respectful. You're old school, you know.
Yes, I'm not quite as old school as you are comparing me to, perhaps. But
Well, I didn't mean to make that kind of assertion or anything, but isn't it good when you're old, like in our gang? You just sign of respect, isn't it?
yes, sign of a survivor, one may say.
Something like that.
Well,
But if I see anything, I'll let you know, okay? But as I say, looks more old school to me.
well, thank you very much,
So why do you want to talk to me?
Lord of Curve. Oh, it was just someone said about a flash of blue hair. That, just reminded me of you, is all.
Well, I'm not the only one with blue hair. you know,
I don't actually. Who else wears a similar hairstyle? You're the only one I've noticed because we're clanmates.
well, I mean, Sean occasionally has blue hair. I just have it because it's my style, man. He just, he's like a little bit of everything, but he's definitely got like a crazy blue thing going. And then there's Faith as well. She's got crazy hair. She likes to change it up as well. We swap tips occasionally.
Yes, well, Sean I haven't seen in a while. He doesn't come to court very often, does he? And I
Nope.
think he was maybe pink or red the last time I saw him with his hair. But,
Whatever takes the fancy, man.
interesting. Thank you, Blue Hawk.
No problem.
And I will make my way over to Sandy.
Yeah. He also so chow and then kind of makes his way off.
So, Sandy, your flash of blue hair that you mentioned in your vision, I may have narrowed down who that could possibly be. Blue Hawk, quite obviously, has rather large blue hair, as you'll see, and he's quite down with the children, I think, whatever the term is. And he mentioned that others of his generation that also wear their hair in similar styles are Faith, for one, and Sean Buckley, I think his name is, quite a young brewer.
I see. Well, I haven't been able to make out much of a face, just the color and then a faint reflection in the mirror shattering. But Faith does seem to pop up an awful bit.
Yes, it rather seems she might be our number one person to talk to next.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I believe so. So we'll look for Laura.
The group of you will manage to group back up together.
Yeah, so Laura will come back up to the other two and be like, so I had an interesting chat with Tim of the Nosferatu. And it seems there's been some drama with the Bruja and the Anarchs going on. He didn't really go into it, but basically, Burnham and the forest in Burnham
would seem to be a place where Faith may be found. Some kindred went to look for her and then didn't return. And of course, she herself hasn't been seen either for a number of functions now she hasn't turned up to.
I see.
So I don't know whether it'd be worth perhaps maybe speaking to some of the gangrel who might know the forest better before we go there ourselves.
Did they mention who these the kindred that went to look for her were?
Out of character, I don't think that was mentioned, was it? Or was it?
The kindred who went to look for her were apparently, according to Tim, a couple of anarchs. You probably could have gotten their names. So Sapphire and Harum were the two. A Bria and a gangrel who apparently went off looking for her in the woods. You know, they can normally handle themselves, so, you know.
Yes, it was two anarchs actually who went to look for her in the woods. A Bria and a gangrel.
Most interesting. Right, well, are we planning to make our way to the woods to conduct a search? That seems maybe a little far-ranging of the woods in Burnham.
Well, do we have anything else to go on?
Sandy, you will be aware through your contacts that Burnham Beaches is sort of a protected area, and it's often used for filming because it's a special and protected area as well.
I should be able to pull some strings, get us there, if need be. It's protected, but it's my circles, so I could try if we wanted to see. Can find someone.
You think you could pull these strings tonight?
I could certainly try. She'll probably start by sending some text because it's past midnight. She'd feel a little bad about just.
It's a bit late, but you know, you got friends, and they are often up late for parties and the likes. With a bit of effort, you can find out that Burnham Beach. I mean, you all know that Burnham Beach is a set of woods, actually not too far from where you've just come from, just north of Slough again. And there's a range of different areas there. It was used for filming things like Harry Potter and a few other films. You know, there's a few great sites. The particular protected area is there's like a Seven Hills Fort up there, which is an area that's in the south part of the forest. And then there's an old tree in the north part as well that is also like the oldest tree in the wood and is a great area for filming. And they're like, you know, there's no problem going there. It's a public area. It's just obviously if you wanted to do anything there, like, you know, sort out a party or anything, then you'd need to get the appropriate licenses and everything else. So they're kind of like, you know, it's easy to get there. It's just, you know, any time of day, no problem. But it's doing anything there is the problem.
Right. Now, we're not necessarily planning on doing anything to the place, right?
Oh,
so
we just want to find Faith, don't we?
Yes, so a visit should be perfectly fine.
I mean, if you think so.
Yes. That's fine.
Okay.
I spoke with Callie and Anson briefly. It appears Anson's had a vision rather similar to mine in line. Similarities, the blood moon, blood being spilled. It seems connected, and it seems to be soon. Just thought I'd put that out there with Anarchs going missing, Faith being missing in a sense. So I do not wish to needlessly spread concern, but to spread information is what I do. So do with that as you will.
This could certainly be concerning. On our way out to the woods, if we're just leaving court, if no one's got anything else, I think I'm going to call a young brewer that I know, and for brevity, just kind of give him a spiel of like, cut the shit. I know you sometimes talk to the other side. What have you heard?
Yeah, he's a bit, whatever. What do you want? Yeah. And yeah, you can get him to cut to the quick and try and get him to say what he's heard. You have one over on him, let's put it that way. So he's it doesn't take long to get him to spill. He's like, yeah, they essentially the Anarchs are pretty pissed off. There have been some rumblings, there's been some problems. It had been okay, but it's been getting pretty bad. And as far as he was concerned, he thought some of them might be getting geared up. He'd seen like some of them with weapons. And he'll kind of tell you on the sly, some of those weapons, talking to Fajir and Liam and stuff, they don't look like sort of weapons on the street and the likes. They're talking like serious hardware. The kind of stuff that you see in the movies. He's kind of hinting at. Anyway, as far as he's concerned, Lady Fox and Fajir are trying to calm them down, but these people going missing is not helping. Sapphire and Harum were like, they're not the leaders, but they're a bit off their heads, crazy, but they were the kind of guys who just a bit hot-headed, and they were pissed off about this thing. It was their kind of territory, and apparently some Tremere bitch had been like poaching on their area, so they wanted a bit of revenge. So they went into the forest, which, as far as he's concerned, is fucking stupid. And you kind of be like, you don't go into the woods, man. It's dangerous up there. Yeah. If you talk to the gangwoman, they tell you it's dangerous. Unless you know what you're doing, just stay away from the wrong places, and you should be okay. But if you go there, you just don't expect to come out.
Where do you say the wrong places are?
Don't go into the north. That's their territory.
Well, thank you.
If you believe the rumors, like
if
conspiracies.
One believes the rumors, indeed.
Yeah, like big dogs that like to rip people apart kind of rumors. Yeah.
Yes, those kind of myths are often go with woodlands, don't they? The beast of Bodmin and the monsters on Dartmoor, etc. Yes.
Yeah. So don't go into the north bit, otherwise it's not going to be good for you. But I don't think they did that. I mean, they weren't stupid enough, like,
Well, I'm not sure.
It's a full moon after all. You don't want to go in there, especially right now. Okay.
Yes. Well, maybe we'll have to have a chat with Vijay. Well, thank you, Sean. Consider your owing lessened, shall we say, for this information.
Yeah. Okay. It sounds good. Well, if you need any more, just let me know. But just a bit of advice, keep you get ready to get to ground, because it looks like things are about to get fiery.
I will relay this information that I've got from Sean to my companions about possible, he seems to be hinting at werewolves in the woods and full moons and fiery battles of death.
Fiery battles of death, indeed.
I'm guessing the group of you are probably in a single sort of, or are you traveling separately up to?
No, at this
No,
point, I don't think there's a need to do
No.
traveling.
So you travel together, pass on the information, and you will. And is there anything else anybody wants to do en route up to Burnham Beeches?
If did we see our swordmaker at court, or is he likely to be in the workshop?
No, he was not at court. In actual fact, notably, and you probably would have picked this up from talking to Sean, they are currently in negotiations, which is why they're not at court. So they are busy with the Anarchs at the moment, trying to discuss and smooth things over
Okay.
at this time. You could probably call them, that's not a problem, but certainly they're not available at court.
Yes, I think I'll probably, not necessarily because of my ineptitude, but just my dislike of modern technology, that I'll ask either one of these if they could maybe text one of them, send them a quick message, so that they might be able to direct us if they can on the goings on in the woods.
Sure. If Sandy has that contact information.
So was that to get a hold of Fajir, or?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, probably more. Laura, you probably have the details of that, so you probably have details for these. I mean, just to get a hold of them on the hoof as the Hound, you probably would be able to get a hold of that. I mean, Sandy, you generally have people's contact details if you need to get a hold of them as well, so you can send a message through. What are you wanting to ask?
So what is it Ashby pudding?
So I think we, want to find out how the negotiations are going and if they've got any lead on Faith and where she might have got to after the scuffle in the woods that we've heard rumours of.
Yeah, so Laura will pretty strictly follow what he said and type pretty much that.
Okay. Yeah, you making a decision about what exactly to say is proving challenging. So yeah, you're very good at writing what other people are telling you to write, though. So you just quickly get it down and out. As vague and random as some of it was, it's just out there, and you get a response relatively, quickly. It's a bit, jilting because obviously you're kind of passing things backwards and forwards, but you can get a response back and forth with Fajir, who will suggest that they've heard, from the Anarchs that there is concern about Faith. They have, however, raised, that obviously if people have gone into the forest, that's not an area that it's known to be dangerous. So obviously they're working on the grounds that, or they're negotiating on the grounds that, unless you can provide us with proof, maybe we could discuss, that maybe this wasn't. And obviously there is a matter of poaching, then that needs to be dealt with, and that can be brought to the prince. It sounds like they're trying to formalize things a bit more and just kind of mollify the Anarchs at this time. What they will get a sort of come back with is saying, but they're not entirely mollified, so, this is going to take some time. So try and, there will be an interest in what exactly you're wanting to do or what you're doing. Are you telling them you're going to Burnham Beeches?
Laura will look at the message a few minutes and then be like, I think maybe you should deal with this, and hand it to Captain Kingsley. I don't think I can make this call.
I will just one finger peck away a message of we are going to the beaches to look for Faith. Painful for these two to watch, I'm sure.
You will get a relatively rapid response going, if you find her, bring her to us, kind of thing.
And then I'll just any further warnings on dangers, just asking for further information on.
You'll get pretty much the same kind of thing, but a little less conspiracy and more of a just make sure you approach from the south is kind of the recommendation, and don't go into the north parts.
Okay.
It's less of it's just just in case. We're not certain whether or not there's any veracity to these rumors. It's not like there's been any problems, but just don't try your luck, essentially.
Okay.
So the group of you will arrive at Burnham Beeches and settle the car down and find yourselves moving into the forest. It is the dead of night, about 2:00, 3:00 by now. And as you look up, the moon is full in the sky. It does not take you long as you start to wander into the forest to be able to hear voices and see light ahead of you. You've been walking for perhaps 5-10 minutes, and based on your phones, you think you're approaching sort of the area where Seven Hills Fort is in sort of the south part of the Burnham Beeches.
I pull up high consensus, see if I can make out any of the conversation before we're like on them.
Yep. So with heightened senses, you can pick out some of the conversation. You can even see, sort of in the light, some movement. You reckon there's probably 3 people there, moving around. They seem a little bit active. They've got a few lights. It's not too much to sort of like glaring flood lamps or anything. It's just little torches and other sort of things being set up. You recognize the voice, one of the voices, as a voice that you heard earlier tonight, Lady Yana. The other voices are definitely female, and kind of looking through the light, you can definitely start to hear the conversation. They seem to be directing and setting things up of some sort, telling people where to put things. You also, with your heightened senses, can smell blood on the air. There is the heady scent of blood.
Interesting. I will relay this information to the others. That invitation. Did no, never mind. I am concerned her and Lady Anna, though. That's awfully inconvenient.
What should we do? Shall we go and speak to them? Do you think?
Laura, perhaps you could have a closer look in a more subtle fashion.
Ah, yes. Good idea. Yeah, and I will activate Unseen Passage. I will roll the rouse check for this.
Of course, go for it.
It's another fail.
Wow, the blood is starting to rise, and you can feel it, and especially with that scent on the air, the beast is starting to reach through as you look up, and in the darkness, there's this edge just around you, and again that feeling like you're out of your element here. This isn't what you should be doing. I mean, you're called a hound, but you're more the socialite. This isn't what you do. But you're still out here. There's something about this place that just speaks to you, to the beast within you. But you disappear, and you start to edge closer. As you get closer, you notice that there are definitely 3 people. There's Lady Yana. There's an Asian lady with dark black hair with a shock of green through it, sort of in highlights around one side. She's quite short. Both of them are wearing what look to be sort of wraparound, not the same dress that she was wearing before. They're instead wearing kind of more bedroom gowns, so dressing robes. But underneath it, you can see there's clearly not much that they're wearing, and they are barefooted. There's bare skin underneath the sleeves. And the third person you recognize immediately as Faith. who seems to also be moving around with some confidence. She does indeed have a mohawk, which is blue, and sort of it's slightly up, but it's not quite as spiky as sometimes her hair normally is. She again is similarly. Well, she's wearing a bit more than the others. She's dressed in not her normal garb. She looks like she's wearing sort of simple, plain clothes. They look a little bit older in style. You're used to her sort of being a modernist when you've seen her before. And they seem to be moving around, and some of them are attaching ropes to the trees, at the end of which there seem to be spiked elements. They're marking out, so the Asian lady is marking out with sticks on the ground, various different patterns into the ground. And you can see that there is a medical container with a large amount of blood sacks in it, that seem to be, again, being used and poured into these various different designs that are being made on the ground. They seem to be moving confidently. At the center of the area, there's kind of a boulder, but there's a round of trees that are being used and creating a bit of a circle around the place here. A number of them. They move with confidence, talk, preparing for something as you watch them.
Okay,
Can you-
Laura's. Oh, go
Yeah,
on, sorry.
go ahead.
No, I was going to say she's going to continue to watch, but go on.
Okay, they will continue. You continue to watch. As you hear them talk, you're pretty certain that they are preparing to do something. They're talking about the designs. It's clear that Lady Yana is kind of the one, not in charge, but between her and Faith, there seems to be an exchange. And then there is a moment where, they're talking, and suddenly Lady Yana calls over and says, "Dress. Where would you like this?" And as you look around, there's no extra person that appears. Instead, Faith turns, walks over, and directs her where to place a dagger upon the floor.
Okay. Yeah, Laura is going to creep her way back to the other two. And she will then say, it looks like there's some kind of ceremonial stuff going on. They're all dressed quite funny. But most importantly, Lady Yana addressed Faith as dressed.
Well, that seems awfully strange to me. I'm not familiar with the rituals of some of the other clans. Do you feel that we should intervene? You are the Queen's Guard.
Surely, right?
I don't know. I mean, I don't deal with this kind of thing normally. You see, I'm more I talk. I don't deal with stuff like this. I don't know. I mean, surely someone of your station, Captain, would have a better idea of what to do.
It's certainly not my place to say. It is more yours as the Queen's Guard. Do you believe they are a threat to the domain and the people of Windsor?
I don't. Yes, but this is an important decision. I would welcome your counsel and you too, Sandy.
What you're telling me deeply disturbs me. I feel like we should intervene, but not without, your agreement. Because
okay,
it is neither my station nor my place to tell you what to do.
Okay, so that's one vote for, and then what about you, Captain Kingsley?
I defer to your countenance on the matter as the Queen's Guard.
I need more time. I mean, by the time I need to think about all of this, and I just don't think we have time. I just would really like you to just tell me what we should do. please.
There is a voice that calls out to the group of you. There is not time for what? It is a female voice, but it holds some strength to it.
Hello?
Stepping forward, you see Faith.
Hello, Faith?
I am Faith no longer. She has chosen a battleground and lost.
I am confused. You use the body of Faith, but you say that you are not Faith?
Faith kind of takes a stance, and you see, Captain, you will recognize that of a hands behind the back, the stance wide, a military commander-esque style sort of stood there. The demeanor is very different, but it is one that you recognize, a stance that you had seen many times before as Drest had stood right next to Eithne. The demeanor is clear, even though the voice and body are different. I mean that an error was made, and it has been rectified. And there are a great many more errors that are likely to be made, which must be rectified.
But I do not believe it your duty to rectify them.
Under what grounds do you challenge me?
Under the grounds that it was not your post as Faith, as the librarian, or as a Lord Chamberlain, to enact the will of Windsor in its protections, as one might as the King or Queen's Guard.
I am the Lord Chamberlain. It is my right to defend this land, is it not? On behalf of whatever prince may claim it. It is my right to defend my clan and our elders, is it not?
And from whom are you defending it this night?
I am seeking to defend from those who seek to bring low our elders. There is a battle coming. It seems you have found your way to us. And so it is that you will have to make a choice whether or not you will stand beside us in this battle. I was not gifted like my prince, Eithne, with the vision of what is to come. Not until I found myself in this body. And I seem now to have been granted some of that clarity. There are some who will come and they will take her from me. And so I have called for aid. Aid to stop that. Those who wish to seek and unearth our elders and drink them dry. Faith was the first. She lost. But I will not risk more falling. There is a choice to be made here. I am not strong enough now on my own to stop them, and I will need allies.
And
I do not know, kind of gestures to the two of you, Sandy and Laura. I do not know you. But I do know you, Captain. And I know that you would never shirk from a fight.
you are quite right. But as you know me, Drest, you also know of my duty to Windsor. And therefore I must ask you, do you stand with Windsor or against Windsor?
I do not seek to reclaim what we have lost. I seek to protect those who cannot protect themselves. And as such, I seek to bring back one who can help us in this fight. A warrior, long sleeping, who will battle with us. Who will fight against those who seek to destroy us. Will you join me?
Speak plainly, dressed. I stand with Windsor. Does your warrior, who you wish to resurrect, stand against the current institution of Windsor? In which case, I will be compelled to protect them by all means from those that would do them harm, but also to protect Windsor from those who would harm it.
Agreements were made. But with the previous prince, I do not know if they still hold. But I am sure that they can be reforged. We are not your enemies, Captain. We are not your enemies. He kind of looks over and looks at you, Laura. I am not your enemy for certain.
No, I know this, and I am happy to stand by you.
Good. And what of you? Looks at you, Sandy.
Yes, in fact, I will. I'll stand by you. If our hand can make a competent decision at this point in time, I will support it.
Then, Captain, it is up to you. If you wish to stay, you may see what is to come. But as I say, they wish to unearth my queen, my princess of the moon, and they wish to kill her. And I will stop them, whatever it takes.
Do I feel by this point that I have confidently identified the Queen of the Moon and her?
He is talking about Aithne, very much.
And that she will be assaulted, like, by the Tremere, and it's like them kind of mopping up, as it were.
He says enemies. He hasn't specified who.
No.
You can ask him if you wish.
I have asked him to speak plainly, but he doesn't seem to wish to do so.
If pushed, he will say, the enemy is not the Tremere. They are distasteful, but they serve their purpose. They are enemies from without. I have felt something of what has happened in this world since the rousing of some of our eldest, the blood and death that has passed. And I wish to stop it before it comes here.
Then I shall indeed stand with you and the Queen's Guard in defence of this domain.
Choice made here is a risky one, but it is important. I'm afraid I cannot allow you to join us for what is to come beyond, but know that what we are doing here is important. But without this weapon, we will fall. That I am certain. I thank you. And with that, she will turn, sort of make their way back. Stay a while. There is one that you will need to meet shortly. And he will continue on. You are not invited in to see what happens next. But you can see roughly in the distance that it is not a pleasant experience. From the sounds, there is pain. From the smell, there is blood. And as you stand there, you see above the moon turn copper and red, as though it bleeds too. For an hour you wait, until eventually, out of the darkness, you see coming not 3, but 4 forms. The 3 flanking slightly somebody who is ebony-skinned, naked, female form, but upon her skin, marks, tribal markings. That's not the first thing you see. The first thing you see is her eyes glowing red in the darkness as they approach. You are certain that you have agreed to wake something old here. This is not Aithne. This is something else. And you are sure that those eyes speak of the blood that is to come and to be spilt on these lands in the years to come. And with that, we bring this evening's session to an end. Thank you very much for staying with us over time a little. But I hope you have enjoyed our tale this evening in Slough. I would equally like to thank all of our lovely players here tonight. Sam, Kirsty, Natalie, and of course our tech ghoul in the background, Peter, for doing a most excellent job with us. And rather than keep you any later, I would just say please tune in next week, obviously, for Season 3, Episode 6 of Blood on the Seven. And we will leave you with the ominous tale and burning red eyes in the darkness. Thank you very much, everybody, and good night. Bye.
Bye.